So Snakes, 5 magazine, shout top city, hit it out. Well, then 785 magazine, 785. Welcome to the 785 magazine. Independent artists get heard without having streams, and the millions like Martin. We have a dream to fulfill destiny so savagely. My nose grinding a stone till we finally own what was owed to us in the first place. I'm home. Topeka is what you're hearing, verbally vomiting through your speaker. Even if nobody ever discovered this ether. Teachers, artists, athletes by the bleachers, homeless people and rich folk all breathe the same air. Listen to the same audio. To the haters, adios. Love your neighbors like your bros. One community, one love, one fight. Gotta make a change, gotta make the shit right. Music is a documented representation of oneself and sometimes a whole damn nation. No matter where they from, it's a blessing they alive. Tune into the magazine of the 785, 785 magazine. 785 magazine. 785 magazine. 7885 magazine.
Government. We all know it's important to understand, be it state, local, or national, but doesn't the thought of it just make you want to, well, drink? If so, you're in the right place. I'm Angel Romero, your politics and pints aficionado, and this is Ballots and Brews, where we'll talk all things local beer, while also diving into what in the world is happening at the local, state, and national government, and what you can do about it. It's Schoolhouse Rocks meets The Daily Show meets C-SPAN, so let's get this show started. Well, hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ballots and Brews, episode number 2 of our new season. And so we are excited, as always, to be keeping things local and be bringing you the latest, greatest happenings here in local and state government, especially emphasis on the local here these first few weeks, because there are a lot of things happening in the city of Topeka that we want to talk about, and we know that you all are interested in as well. And one of the things we're going to spend some time doing over these next few weeks is talking with our city council members. And of course, many of you will remember, we just had a city council election last year. So we elected some new folks and re-elected some folks. And so we're excited to get to spend some time over those next couple weeks chatting with folks. And so the first one is someone who is no stranger to our show. So we're excited to have back on City Councilman Spencer Duncan, who represents the 8th City Council District in the city of Topeka. So Spencer, thanks for hanging out again tonight.
Thank you, Angel. I'm not going to hold it against you that I'm on episode 2 and wasn't episode 1 of the season, but that's all right. It's better to be in here at all than
you
not
can
get
let
invited.
Sylvia Davis beat you out.
And this is Ballots and Brews. Look, there we go. I'm making sure I'm holding
what is it that you're drinking?
This is a Yingling Golden.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, I figure keep with the theme.
Absolutely.
I'll try not to let it go to my head, although that might make for a more entertaining episode.
I have always said that. I'm like, after a few, things could get super interesting.
That's right.
I have the Sam Adams Cold Snap is what I have.
Oh, there you go. Those are good.
In honor of, even though the weather's been really nice, actually. So
no, it's still cool at night. It counts.
Exactly. I approve. Well, we said welcome back. So you just did get reelected to a 4-year term last year, representing Southwest Topeka on the city council. So how does it feel knowing you get to come back for another 4 years?
I mean, it feels good. I think it's representative of a few things. Hopefully, it's representative of the fact that I'm at least moving in a direction that people like mostly. Not agree all the time, but at least they understand that I'm listening and moving in a direction that people can appreciate and doing some good work. I think that it's partly an affirmation of that, because I did have a challenger, so I wasn't uncontested, which is fine. That's how it should be, especially in local government. You shouldn't just run uncontested all the time. It's not healthy for the process. So we had some good conversations, and so and I mean this every time. This is where I grew up. In fact, I always remind people I didn't just grow up in Topeka. I grew up in District 8. And so it really is humbling and always honoring to be like, wow, I'm now representing the district that I literally can show you where I fell on my bike and the neighbors that I used to play with. And, it does mean something to me, because I obviously know a lot of people throughout Topeka and in the district. So I just hope I don't screw it up now the next 4 years. That's the goal, right? That's what will be my next goal, is just keep moving forward with what I'm trying to accomplish and keep listening to folks.
Absolutely. Well, and as you were campaigning, what were some of the things that you heard from folks that they were concerned about?
Yeah, some of it's always the same stuff, which never changes, and not all bad. Public safety and roads. I mean, potholes and just general road conditions, infrastructure, and public safety, policing, fire. Two of the bigger things that came up were always property taxes. And for me, I've always been a pretty gung ho. We need to reduce property taxes. I mean, I take some of the credit because I put some forward various initiatives that have helped deal with that. We created a property tax program for folks who are older and lower income. I'm proud of that. And I've worked really hard to lower our mill levy, but people were really talking about property taxes and the purchase of the hotel.
Oh.
That was always a lightning rod since the day we did it. And I understand that. I tell folks, this sounds crazy, but I mean, I got on the council right when COVID was hitting, and there were some police concerns as the George Floyd incident nationally kind of brought some issues home. And despite all that, that hotel purchase was one of the things that has kept me up more at night than any of that other stuff, because it was just such a weighing the constant discussion of quality of life and economic development versus being a steward of tax dollars and balancing that. And that was tough. And in the end, we bought it. The pledge I have always made and continue to make is, one, we're not going to own it long term. We're going to do everything we can to get it into private hands. We do not plan to be the long. And two, I'm not going to support spending $10 million of your taxpayer dollars to renovate it. The private people need to do that. And I think once I explain that to people, they feel a little better. Okay, we understand why you did it, and please don't go spend a bunch of our money to do it. So those were the four things: public safety, roads, property taxes, and the hotel purchase that were kind of the main primary things during the campaign.
Sure. Well, and it's great that you had a chance to have conversations about issues like the hotel. The hotel issue is one of those issues that there's layers to it, and it's a kind of complex thing. And so to be able to have that chance to talk that through with people, I think is really great.
And I think what's always been important to me and will continue to be is we're not always going to agree, and that's okay. Yeah. But I'm willing to have the conversations, and I really want people to know at least what I was thinking, where my head was at, what information I had, what my process was. So even if they walk away disagreeing, they're like, okay, we still think it was a stupid decision, but we understand why he made it, and we get where he was coming from. Versus sometimes you just get an answer from people that's just, whatever. I did it because I wanted to, or I thought it was good. That's not an answer. Tell people why you're making these decisions.
Oh, for sure. Well, and speaking of that too, you also have some new colleagues that are joining you on the city council too. So you've got David Banks and Marcus Miller. So what's it like to have some new colleagues on the council now?
It's always good to have, new blood, if they want to say. In their cases, those were both open seats already. So it wasn't, and even if they had been an incumbent, that's fine too. That's the process. But so they've been great so far. I mean, David's a former firefighter, so he has a distinct insight of history of being an employee of Topeka and the public safety issue. Marcus is very community oriented, been in the neighborhoods a long time, works with kids. So he brings they both bring totally new perspectives to the council that aren't repetitive of some other perspective that we have. Yeah. And I think that's important. And I mean, so my day job, people don't know, is I'm the government affairs director for the League of Kansas Municipalities. So I actually work every day with cities all across the state. I get to see a lot of other city councils and how they operate and how they're made up. And I really believe right now, Topeka can lay claim to one of the more diverse group of assembled council than anyone in the state. Yeah, there's a piece or two we're missing. I don't believe we have like an LGBTQ representative, but we are very diverse, both in thought, in background, in ethnicity. And so good for Topeka. I mean, I think that really does give us some insight and perspective when we're making decisions that are really important.
Absolutely. I was just about to say, I feel like especially over the last 5 to 6 years that the council has just continued to get more diverse, and I think is really starting to match the community, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, because it should. I mean, councils need to represent the community because, again, it's not always about disagreeing, but it is about agreeing, but it is about having those voices at the table and giving you that perspective that you're just like, oh, I still may disagree with you or I agree with you, but, I had not looked at it that way. And you don't get that if we're all the same person.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. Well, and now that you've got these next 4 years to look ahead to, what are some of those things that you're looking forward to? What are some of those things that are kind of on your to-do list looking ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I've told people sort of my top 3 priorities. Again, public safety is in there. I always say it's always a constant. So even though I also say it's a priority, it's got to be up there. But again, I'm still the tax guy. Whether I like it or not, I'm still going to harass about we need to lower those tax burdens on people, primarily property tax, and I'll keep fighting and putting some programs forward. We have to address our housing issue. Have to. And we're making some inroads in that, but it's a combination of issues on the housing. It's not just, it's a lack of stock. We've got to start building and building and building more, because that's how we're going to also deal with people who are paying way too high in rent. And one of the reasons rent rates are so high is because we don't have a stock.
Yeah.
It's an availability. You can charge more when people say, well, where are you going to go? Well, I guess nowhere, because there is nowhere else to go. If we open up that stock, we not just bring more people into Topeka and help people, we lower rent rates and the cost of living for everybody also. So we've got to do that. And then the infrastructure issues, particularly roads, but other infrastructure problems are up there. And we are moving forward. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. And even when people talk to me about Topeka Boulevard, I won't even try to defend it. Won't even try. It is horrible. It is awful. But we do have a plan. In fact, some of that construction starts this year. So I think people are finally going to start to see some movement on a couple of those main roads. But so those are a big three that we've got to start addressing.
Sure. Well, it's funny when we just visited with Sylvia last week, we had that talk about infrastructure, and of course, this is something we're seeing across the country too. That cities are really trying to devote time to recognizing our communities are aging and our infrastructure is aging, and we've got to be able to keep up with that.
What's sad to some degree is we finally have some money to do some big projects, but there's only so many people who are available to do the projects.
Oh yeah.
So what's frustrating is to know that, okay, we finally put some money aside. In theory, and I'm just making up a number here kind of, we could do, say, 20 giant road projects monetarily today. But there's only enough construction people in the Midwest or in our area that we can do 10 of them. So when people come and say, when are you going to get to this road? You got to hurry up. I'm like, I agree with you, but there's only so many contractors available right now to come do the work.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't have the cash, it's I don't have the contractors.
Yeah.
That is a frustrating problem to have, but we're working through it.
Sure. And this is another plug out there for folks. If you have a skilled trade that you work in, the city of Topeka could put you to work. So we talked about that
exactly right.
with Sylvia last week. There are all kinds of opportunities for employment with the city.
Yeah, no, we do, and we need good employees, and some of them work hard, and I go out there all the time when I see them and say thank you, and I'll stand out there sometimes in my district with them for a few minutes while they're trying to fix a water main break, and I'm like, I wish I could help. I don't have a skill set, but thank God you're out here, because we cannot function as a city without those folks who are in the trenches, who go out at 3:00 in the morning to fix a water main break or a road issue. We can't function without them. And so I know that they don't get enough kudos, both from us and even from the public. But they deserve every bit of it.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that you mentioned as a priority for yours is of course being the tax guy, being the guy that's keenly interested in those issues, and that's something I know you worked on last year when it came to property tax relief. What are some of the things that you think we need to work on, going forward to continue to focus on that issue and continue to look at ways to provide relief for folks?
Well, part of it is continue to have conversations with the public about what they really want. Right? Because sometimes there's a disconnect, and this is our fault too, in terms of how we communicate as elected officials, between the idea of, yes, there's core services, right? Public safety, infrastructure, those things. But then there's definitely a difference of opinion on what that next level is. I mean, if our community is lacking childcare and the private sector cannot fill those slots fast enough, does government have a responsibility to try to help take care of children in childcare, right? If you believe yes, then I have to pay for them.
Yeah.
Now, if you believe no, okay, right? But parks, pools, walking paths, right? These are all things that people will say, we really want you to support that. And we have to remind them, okay, but this is the cost of that.
Yeah.
So understand that when we set these taxes, we're trying to pay for these things you also want. And I'm okay with that, but we need to have that conversation better. Now, the flip side of that is, every year I've been at the city, we've had a surplus. This year, that surplus is $8 million, right? The dirty, not so secret of inflation is when things cost more, you pay more in sales tax, which means I get more of your money as the government, right?
Yep.
So my frustration has been at times, we have, first of all, I will give our own city kudos. We went 10 years without raising the mill levy, and we've gone several consecutive years of lowering the mill levy. Now, valuations have meant taxes have gone up, but we're trying. I would like to see that mill levy go down lower, because I know every year we're going to have extra money at the end of the year. So why not give that relief up front to taxpayers? That's a fight I'll keep having with my colleagues in the back and forth and discussions like that. But then the other thing we can do is continue to put in programs that at least help our most vulnerable population. So the program that I brought forward that thankfully the council passed, so I appreciate that, was similar to the state homestead program. If you make a certain threshold of dollars, you've been in your house 5 years and you're 65 or older, we will rebate you back your city portion of your property tax. You qualify, I'm trying to reduce the burden.
Yeah.
Two things we can do with that program is try to expand the eligibility. We're going to take a look at who applies this year and who just misses the cut. Maybe we need to lower the age. Maybe we need to increase the income threshold. Maybe we need to add disability. The other thing is, I would really like the county and the school district and the library to also institute that program, because then property taxes would go down. I always remind people there are 8 entities on your property tax bill. It's not just the city. It's the county, it's the school board, it's the state, it's the library, it's the transit authority, it's the airport authority, it's Washburn. And I'm not blaming them, but when we get all the heat, sometimes I'm like, I don't disagree with you, but it's not just us. Don't just blame us. There's others. It's a very complicated system. And so part of it is trying to change that system. The last thing I'll say about how we lower property taxes is we got to fix the statewide appraisal system. So right now in the ag industry, they use a rolling average. I think it's a 5 or 6 year rolling average. That ensures that you don't have these huge spikes of like 18 and 20% like we've seen, but it also keeps it at market rate so you're not going below market. We need to get the state to transition residential and commercial property to that same sort of rolling system so that we don't see these huge bumps. And so I try to encourage everybody to start talking to legislators to move that needle to change that appraisal system, and that'll lower our taxes. So that's a mouthful on how we lower taxes, but I do have a plan and I do have a vision for how we get there. It's just we got to move that forward.
Sure, and for those out there watching, we did drop a link to that housing rebate program in the comments on here, so do feel free to share that, because that is a really valuable and really important resource for folks in the community that qualify. And I'm curious, when you talk about that rolling valuation process, it's super interesting. What if any opposition is there to that kind of idea? Is there any kind of opposition on the part of property owners or anything like that? I'm just curious kind of what the opposition to that looks like.
I actually don't think there will be. I'm sure there's opposition to everything, right? Tell me the sky's blue. Somebody thinks it's off blue. You're wrong, right? But I don't know that there will be a lot of opposition to that. I actually think there's been some serious conversation this year at the legislature about what that would look like. I think the appraisers would be on board because it again, makes them not the bad guy. I'm always raising our rates, right? I mean, really, there's a piece of that, just a personal state. So I actually think that once that gets in motion, it has some real chance of becoming the new normal and moving forward. I just think it's like a lot of things in government. We've had the same system for so long that getting any change, even if it's the right change, just takes time. And it'll probably take a couple sessions and years at the Capitol of discussion before it actually happens.
Sure. So that's another lesson for folks out there listening. I know sometimes it can be painful, but sometimes you do have to remind folks over and over about those and keep those issues in front of people's minds, so that they can still pay attention, even if it takes a session or two to move things along.
When people ask me what's the worst thing about being in government, like I say, I can't move things fast enough.
Yeah.
It's my one frustration. It's honestly my main number one, only really true frustration is we're going to get there sometimes, but I just know I can't do it in a week. It's going to take 6 months, and that drives me nuts.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, speaking of something that did get done last night, so of course, one of the things that you all approved was the capital improvement plan. And so as we were just talking about infrastructure and that sort of thing, do you want to give people first just a little kind of the snapshot or Reader's Digest version of what the capital improvement plan is?
Yeah, so we call it the CIP. So when you hear us say CIP, we're talking about the capital improvement plan. Yeah, we actually started the conversation last night. We added a few pieces, but we'll actually debate it or discuss it for the next 5 to 6 weeks. And so I actually encourage people to go onto the city website. You can look at the CIP, and the next couple of days, I'll put some links out on my social media stuff. But because I'd like thoughts on it, like go through it and look at plans and say, why are you really doing that road? Or why are you really spending money on that project? But it is basically all of the capital improvement projects starting from this year, 2024, all the way, it's a 10-year plan, so through 2035. And it is everything from every road project to every building project to any park project or whatever. Anything that's a capital improvement is in that plan for us to look ahead so we can start planning, start budgeting, think about what the bonding would look like, if we really want to move it. So we review it every year because there are times we take stuff out. So for instance, last night, we had in the last 2 years this project called Elevation Parkway. It's clear Elevation Parkway is just not going to happen right now. There's a lot of reasons, mostly it's development related, but there's no reason to have it in our capital improvement plan, hold aside millions of dollars for that program when we don't need it. So last night, one of the decisions we made was we have to build a new fleet garage because with the Polk Quincy project, our fleet garage has been bought by KDOT to be torn down. We need a new one. So we're going to shift those dollars into the fleet garage program, capital improvement project. So it is really this massive, horribly complicated document where we're trying to look at 10 years of projects, but it is fascinating. And I encourage anyone to take a look at it and look at things because there are things in there we're going to have changes to. Some of us are going to say, are you sure we really need to do that project? Because I don't think so. It costs how much? You're out of your mind, right? And other things that aren't in there, including road projects. This is a great time if in your district, if you have a road and you don't see it on our current, you talk to your council person in the city and they're like, well, it's not on there. This is when you need to get it in. Talk to them now and say, my street needs done. Get it in your CIP so this road gets done.
Absolutely. And for folks out there watching, we just dropped the link in the comments to the CIP website. So it's a great website on there. You can see those plans on there and review them. And we encourage you to do that because that drives a lot of that really important work that's happening at the city level. And when it comes to potholes, because I don't know if you've heard that is something people are concerned about in the
No. Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. What is something you think people should know about how the city is addressing potholes and street maintenance in general?
So first of all, I don't want to potholes. We do have issues with potholes. So I want to be very clear that I believe that. I recognize that problem. I also think sometimes in Topeka, it's become like talking about the weather. It's like something it's like the default thing to talk about. Our main problem is some of our main roads are really bad. A lot of our side street, not all of them, so nobody think I'm saying, but a lot of our side streets aren't so bad, and we've done a good job of maintaining. But Topeka Boulevard, parts of 21st, 29th, they are bad. And so since those are the main roads people travel, it becomes exacerbated with, oh my gosh, these potholes are terrible. And they are, okay? But overall, I know people don't believe this when I say it, the metric we use for road, and this is not our metric, it's an international metric, and we gauge every year. Our index has actually gone up over the last few years. I know that's hard to believe, but overall, our whole road system is better today than it was 10 years ago. But those really bad roads are not. And so what we're trying to do is refocus on, okay, those really bad roads, now we're at that breaking point. One of the things, though, we're also doing now, which has delayed, I guess is the right word, but not really, we're doing a better job of coordinating the underground infrastructure work with the road work itself. Because I used to get complaints about, 2 years ago they repaved this, and now they're tearing it up today to put in some water line. You're right. That was stupid. Right? Okay. We now have directors in utilities with Sylvia Davis, who you talked to last week, and public works with Braxton Copley, who are working very well together to make sure if we're about to go redo this road, we're going to do all the infrastructure under it if it needs done too. That's the way to do it, but it takes a little longer then. The road's closed a little longer, the project's a little more expensive, takes longer to get to it. So I understand that frustration, but in the long term, that's the right approach because it saves us money, it saves us time down the road, it makes the road last longer. So we are taking it seriously. We even have, and I'll have to find it, you can look at road projects
Oh yeah.
for the city of Topeka. We have a way you can look those up to see what's coming down the line. And if you have roads, reach out to your council person and say, why aren't you dealing with this? And we might be able to tell you when we are.
Yeah.
But so it's not perfect, and I know it's a little slow going, but we are working on it. I know there are days. Trust me, even I was driving down Topeka Boulevard yesterday, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous.
For sure, and of course, we'll remind folks too about that See-Click Fix app that the city has, and so that is a great way to report things and to see updates on progress on there too. So not only can you report things, but you'll be able to track progress on things that you've reported and that others have reported as well. And so that really is a great app, a great tool for people to use.
And on those road projects, I believe every council person to a T will tell you if you really have a question about a specific road and you email them, they're happy to give you an answer because we can get that information, and we're happy to at least give you some kind of answer.
Absolutely. Well, another big thing, of course, we were just talking about this a little earlier, is there's a lot of hiring going on at the city of Topeka, not the least of which is we are in the midst of hiring for a new city manager. So we are making some progress there. I know we've narrowed the field down a little bit. So can you talk a little bit kind of about where we're at in that process and what are you hoping that we find in a new city manager?
Yeah, we had 42 applicants that ended up applying. We whittled that down to 14. We've had one drop out because they had a recent health issue that's arisen, so they're not. So we're at 13. They've all submitted intensive questionnaires and some online video question answers to us. Our goal is to whittle those 13 down to 4 or 5, and at that point they will become the finalists. They will trek to Topeka, and there will be public opportunity to meet with them. We will put together similar to what we did last time, we haven't hashed out yet, so I don't want to overstep or talk if it hasn't, but there will be a chance for the public to meet with them, give us feedback before any decision made. That is a crucial piece to many of us on the council that we need to see how they interact with citizens and get feedback from citizens onto that hire. So we're getting there. There are some really good candidates in that pool. So I'm very optimistic that we can come away with somebody who's really qualified. So looking at them, I was like, wow, this is a good group of people. This may be a really tough decision, which is how it should be.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, two things when I'm looking for. First of all, I have told people, and I'll say it here tonight, let me know what you want me to look for. I mean, if you have questions you want me to ask, let me know. I will ask them. But I want somebody who can manage our city. We have 1,100 people. We have multiple departments. Whoever we bring in certainly can be an expert on management of a city operations and have knowledge. But nobody is going to be a police expert, a fire expert, a public works expert, a utilities expert, right? An HR expert. That person does not exist. And if they say they are, they're a lie. All right. What I need is someone who understands how all those parts move, how they have to work together, someone who can identify good people, put them in the right positions, and then let people do their job. And with that, bring the vision of what they expect as city manager. This is my vision. This is what I expect us to accomplish, and working with both my council and my top level staff, and we all need to get it done together. And we need someone who understands how to put that vision together and then how to move all the parts and people around to make it happen. And that's what I'm looking for, is sort of that expertise.
Absolutely. Well, and we're looking forward, I know, to seeing those finalists. And of course, for folks out there watching, we will also make sure to let you know when those public opportunities come up, because that is a really great opportunity to meet those candidates. And I know the city council takes that feedback from citizens seriously in that process. So that is a really great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, don't miss out on the opportunity to give us that feedback. We really do listen to it. I know there's times it doesn't feel like it, but I swear, at least a lot of us really do listen to it.
Sure. Well, and one last issue kind of related question. So, the city's has convened this group that's been working for a while now on addressing homelessness in the community and working with a consultant that's been engaged in that work. And so, can you talk a little bit kind of where that group is in the process, and are there ways that people can continue to kind of provide input from the public side of things?
Yeah, so I think we're going to get some final reporting in another 6 weeks or so, sometime in either mid to late April, as to kind of what that group has done. It has been very community oriented. It sort of has two different groups that have met with members from the community who are providing input to it. It's not going to provide us all the solutions. All right. I really want to be clear about that. We're not going to get this thing in April and solve homelessness. Nobody has solved homelessness. There's a lot of ideas I can take from other cities and say, how does it work and steal it. There's nobody in the country who's figured out homelessness. And the problem is it is so complicated. I always tell folks, not to simplify it too much, but there's sort of three groups of homeless. There's the group one, who are individuals who they don't want to be there. They got there through just whatever, bad luck, bad finances. They want help. And the minute we reach out to them, they take it and they want on a path out. There's a second group of individuals dealing truthfully with mental health issues and addiction problems. And that is a struggle of a group. And there's a third group who honestly they don't trust government. They don't trust people. They just sort of want to live off the grid. There's no one law I can pass that fixes all three categories. I've got resources over here to help Group A, and we're helping them. Group B, we have some resources, but we don't have enough. We don't have enough beds to help people with addiction problems. We don't have enough therapists or time they can spend outpatient. They need more intensive inpatient with mental health issues and medicines. And then Group C, sure, I can pass some camping ordinances, which we've done, which really address them and say, look, I get that you want to live this way, but you still can't build structures that are fire hazards. You still can't put waste and trash without some sort of coordinated effort. And so that's the problem. And so what I hope this comes out of this homelessness group is something that helps us pool our resources together, because we have them across the city and they are working very hard to coordinate, but we could do a better job as a city of what is our role in helping you pull all these resources together. I don't need to go create a bunch of programs as a city. What I need to do is look at the 20 or 30 organizations helping these folks and say to them, how can I support you? You're already doing the work. What do you need from me to get a better job, to elevate what you're doing? And I think this group's going to give us some of those suggestions. And I think they are going to come up with some ideas of ways we can help address getting people into homes or certain situations. In the meantime, we're going to work with the state to provide some resources. We're going to enforce some of our camping ordinances to help with public safety, and just kind of on these various tracks move it forward. But so we'll see what comes in 6 weeks, but I'm going to be optimistic that some good is going to come out of it that'll help us move.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things. As you said, Jay, I think it's going to be a continual work in progress too. Because you're right; they won't have all the answers right away. It's going to take continuing to work, and there might be things we try that don't work, and we readjust. But I think it's going to be one of those kind of works in progress.
It is an extremely tough balance between making sure that we are helping people who are truly in a bad situation and just need a little help to get out of that situation, and letting them live the life they can and need to live, versus also balancing the life of everybody who is, doesn't need them in their neighborhoods, isn't concerned about safety, right? It's a balance between the rights of both of those two groups and making sure you're respecting them both and treating them both equally fair, while solving the problem. And that's a tough one, because when people set up a camp right across from your house, it's scary, it can cause problems. And whether that's right or wrong, it is. And so that's what we're trying to balance, is what's the right approach.
Absolutely. On top of all the other things that we just talked about too. So a lot going on right now.
We can multitask most days. Right. Not always. Most days.
Well, before we wrap up, of course, we had a couple of fun questions too, because this is Ballots and Brews. I don't think I actually realized this. We might have talked about this once a little while ago, but I forgot that you used to be affiliated with the Kansas Wine and Beer Garden at the Kansas State Fair. So can you talk about what that was like?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So my brother and I owned that for 15 years down at the Kansas State Fair. Honestly, when COVID hit, they canceled the state fair. And I think that year, after 15 years, we looked at each other and said, man, we're getting older. It's been great and fun, but it's kind of nice not having to go spend basically a month, almost 3.5 weeks down in Hutchinson, because you got to set up a week and a half before. The fair is 10 days. You got teardown days. I mean, the month of September, I lived in Hutchinson, Kansas for 15 years. And I loved Hutchinson, so it was great. But so what we did was, and I'll tell you about the thing we called our competitor, who we were not the best friends with. We were very and I said to him, look, brother and I can come back, or we don't have to. If you make us the right offer, we will sell you our stuff, and you'll never have to deal with the Duncan brothers ever again. He made a good offer. We sold and said, all right, it's been great. But it was actually originally started by the legislature because they only allowed beer at the fair, and it was only 3 tubing. And Kansas breweries and wineries went to the state legislature and said, it's the state fair. We're an ag product. We make these products. We need a place to be able to sell them. And that was born the idea of the Kansas Wine and Beer Garden, where we sold primarily Kansas wines and beers at the state fair. We'd sell some other national brands because you kind of have to just to make some money and get the people who are, a group of 4 comes in, 3 of them are fine with Kansas stuff, but one's like, I only drink Bud Light, or Coors Light, or Miller. That's the only thing I drink. Okay, we got you.
Yeah.
And through the years, we sold all kinds of food, chicken wings, buckets of nachos, anything that was true fair food. Churros, we had a churro cart, sold churros for years. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. Probably some of the hardest work I've ever done in my life. And I worked in a liquor warehouse for 3 years. And so working there it's still harder setting that up. And so there's parts of it I really miss. I really liked the fair. I really liked it nighttime before the fair. You get to meet all the carnies and hang out with some of the carnival would come in, and all the carnies who were quite the crew, and just there's a lot of stories there about that life. And so I really enjoyed that piece of it. I don't miss hanging out there till 1 o'clock, pulling kegs frantically and serving thousands of people a day. So, so it was fun. It was a great time. Glad we did it. Like I said, parts of it I miss, and parts of it I'm like, I'm getting old, man. I can't be doing some of that work.
I totally get it. Well, and it's gotta be interesting too. And all that time that you've worked sort of in that industry, you probably saw a lot of changes. Kansas has some really unique and interesting liquor laws, and they've changed a lot over the years.
They have, and truthfully, my family's been a big part of that. My father's represented the liquor industry for over 45 years. Some of the laws you like, you can thank him for, and some of them you don't like, you can probably blame him for, and that's all right. But we were the ones who got the law passed to get those Kansas products down at the state fair. And as you know, a few years ago, Topeka was the first place that had these self-serve machines, here in downtown Topeka, Brewbank, and I was the one who got that law passed. They called me up and said, we need this. And so I went to the legislature and fought the good fight, and Kansas finally got those. So, so through that process of being involved in that industry, especially with that wine and beer garden, there's actually a lot of those laws. We help pass wine shipping. You can now get wine shipped in, actually, believe it or not, Kansas was on the forefront of that early states 10, 15 years ago now. So yeah, it didn't just lead to doing the Kansas wine and beer garden. It also led to us being very active in moving some of those laws. It was Topeka. It was myself and our city attorney, Amanda Stanley, who went to the legislature last year and got the common consumption passed. So starting this spring, we're going to be able to walk around downtown with your beer or wine and not get caught or in trouble. And so yeah, it wasn't just fun as a wine and beer garden, but I'm kind of proud to also have had a hand in a lot of those liquor law changes over the last 15 years or so too. So
absolutely,
it's kind of fun.
Well, and as someone who really appreciates Brewbank, I appreciate that every day. And I always remind people that is a direct example of talking to your legislators and something
that's exactly right. Yeah, getting it done here in Topeka. Yeah. So let's go do it. We did.
That's awesome. Well, and of course we've got coming up. It'll be next weekend. So we'll have St. Patrick's Day in Topeka. So always lots of fun things going on. So do you have any recommendations for folks? Some of your favorite places to check out or favorite things to partake in on the day?
Well, they always do the Irish Fest downtown. I mean, you can't miss out on there, especially with Celtic Fox and Church and some other groups down there. You can't miss going down there. And I mean, I always try to might try to make it this year. We'll see. But I always hunt down your corned beef and cabbage. I mean, come on, that's a classic. That's a classic one. So if you don't have that on St. Patrick's Day, then I pity you. I know people cabbage. It's good. Put it with some corned beef. It's just fine. It's good stuff. So yeah, so anywhere you can track that down, I'd say just go there. But I know we got a lot of local places all across the city who do some special things for St. Patrick's Day. So you don't have to go far. Just find whoever's close to you and go make sure you give them a few bucks and eat their food and drink their beer and enjoy yourself.
Absolutely. And hey, I will tell people right now, so we have this tradition at United Way. We decided every year that we have been in the St. Patrick's Day Parade, the weather has been terrible. And so this year we decided not to do it. So if the weather turns out amazing.
It's supposed to look great. Right now the forecast is great.
I know.
So yeah, it is. That could change. I mean,
right.
But right now it's looking really nice.
You just never know some years on that day for that parade. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, especially I walked in several of those parades, not just the St. Patrick's, but the Christmas parade is always a crapshoot with the weather. The weather's usually always cold, but so people are like, you want to ride on this float? I'm like, no, I'm walking.
Right,
Keeps my blood moving. I want to stay warm. I'm walking this thing.
Right, if I could be behind the hot air balloon float, like
right. Yeah, that's always great.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Spencer, thanks again for everything you do and for getting to hang out with us tonight.
No, I do appreciate it, and I really mean it. If you call me or you email me or you text me or you hit me up on social media, you'll hear back from me. It really is important to me to keep those engagements open. And I'll tell you, for instance, I just recently we have somebody who's got a petition issue against the city of Topeka regarding taxes. I just met with him this week. We don't agree on everything, but some of it we do, and we had a great conversation. We've had I had some very rightfully so upset people when a few months back we had the tragic murder of that young girl. And I called everybody back, and those conversations were tough. But I think by the end of it, we had a better understanding of, me trying to explain to them what we're doing, them explaining to us things they think we should be doing. And so my point of that is, I will call you back. And I think that by the end of the conversations, hopefully we'll be a little closer to getting somewhere. But I'm not afraid of the conversation, and I am open to it. So please don't hesitate. Can't solve every problem. That is besides things taking too slow. My only other frustration is there are problems I really can't solve. I really want to, but I don't have full fiat authority in the world. But I'll help you when I can. And so I mean it when I say it, so take it seriously. You can always email it, sduncan@topeka.org, and you can find me all over at Spencer L. Duncan, whatever platform, Twitter and Threads and Facebook and Instagram.
All the things.
I don't know if that's a bad word these days or not or whatever. So I'm all over social media, and I post things there. So please don't hesitate to hit me up when you need to.
Awesome. And that, folks, is the beauty of local government, is you get to access these folks and they're in your neighborhoods, which I love. So challenge accepted. So feel free to hit Spencer up, folks, as you're watching out there. Well, and folks, that takes us to the end of today's episode. So a reminder, we talked about Irish Fest coming up. And so, of course, that will be next weekend in Topeka. We'll be sharing some more information on our socials about things going on there, as well as there's things happening at, for instance, Ryan's Pub here in Topeka and lots of other great places that will house celebrations and specials all day long. Irish Fest, the fun kicks off at 10 a.m. next Saturday. And so the food lines, beer lines will open at that time. The parade is at noon. So you can really spend your whole time in downtown. Head down to Celtic Fox, really just enjoy the day out there. And if it's cold, I hear that beer just warms you up, so that just helps out in that effort. And so we will be back again, folks, in 2 weeks with another member of the City Council, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers everybody, and have a great night. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.